Okay, good stuff. So the session today will effectively look at the kind of issues that are facing or associated with, I suppose, for organisations that are currently managing their DDI or DID ranges via spreadsheet, and of course that goes hand in hand with the team's admin portal. So it's really positioned for people with organisations with a current Teams voice strategy, or maybe looking to move to a Teams voice strategy, but need those processes in place to really streamline and have an efficient process in place for that management of DIDs. So if we look at the current pain points, I suppose, associated with that management, both with Excel and, of course, if organisations are using Excel, then they have the associated Teams admin portal side of things. With spreadsheets, each DID range will effectively be stored on a separate spreadsheet, or if you like, separate tabs within the spreadsheet. So, of course, it's a difficulty of access to that spreadsheet, but also any adds, moves, and changes that are made, of course, have to be updated in multiple areas. You've got the Excel spreadsheets, and then, of course, the actual configuration that's required on the Teams admin portal. And for example, one of the processes, such as finding the next available DID in a range, the process would have to be go to the spreadsheet, open it up, find the relevant range, and then scroll through or use process to go through that spreadsheet to find the next available DID. So a very manual process currently for organisations using spreadsheets. With regards to the Teams admin portal, one of the key areas is there's no delegation of administration. So any of these configuration, adds, moves, changes, whatever it may be, it requires a Teams administrator to conduct those actual changes. This can cause delays and inefficiencies around actually configuring or allocating the DID. Of course, there might be a change process in place that is required. There's also no verification or notification process if a DID is in use. So even if a DID is allocated within Teams admin portal, it could be allocated to multiple users. So there's that area of risk associated. Of course, any changes made within Teams admin portal, you've then got to update a spreadsheet. So there's multiple legs or multiple areas of potential error or risk associated. There's no automation or sync with AD, and of course that centralized visibility, or the easy centralized visibility, is just not available with the Teams admin portal. And there's other processes such as bulk provisioning of DIDs that are very much a manual process within Teams. So if, for example, you are migrating from onto a Teams voice environment, and you've got thousands or tens of thousands of DIDs that need provisioning, then it's a frustrating process using the admin portal. So the benefits of using a DID range manager, I've split this up into three main areas. You're going to reduce risks, you will increase your efficiencies, and improve resource planning. So with regards to the risks, using a range manager will give you that centralized view across all of your multiple ranges. So that what that means effectively is you're removing the spreadsheets, and you can delegate access to the range manager, or a range manager, very simply, and that visibility, the access to the different ranges, multiple ranges, of course, going to reduce risks there. Efficiencies, I'd say, are probably one of the key areas with implementing a range manager. So I've mentioned already about the role-based access, so that delegated access where you can step away from the admin portal and maybe restrict access to individual users, So when they log on to a range manager, they can actually, maybe in their location, do those add, move, changes, the configuration, the provisioning, whatever it may be, from that area without the need for that Teams admin role as well. A range manager will also facilitate the bulk provisioning, which again will significantly reduce the time and the risk that is associated with that manual process. And of course, the quick identification of the next available DIDs in the ranges as well, that can be accommodated certainly with a range manager. Resource planning. So a range manager will typically give you proactive alerts. So for example, on capacity, you can be alerted if a range is reaching capacity. There's associated reports around that, which again will assist you with the resource planning, and very easily you can see allocated DIDs, unallocated DIDs in a particular range, or you can filter through on the reports just to ensure that the reports are giving you that relevant information. You can verify the DID ranges versus the reported. So the range manager that we're going to look at today, Clobba RM, will actually integrate as well with Team CDR. So what an organisation would do, they can import their existing DID ranges, and you can compare versus the actual reported ranges within the range manager. And of course, without the associated cost savings, it might be that over time multiple ranges have been implemented. Some of the ranges themselves might be redundant, some of the numbers might be redundant, so you can manage all of these from this single application, and of course the cost savings will follow hand in hand with that. So what we're looking at today, as I've kind of alluded to, is Clobba RM. Clobba RM is part of the Clobba suite of software. Clobba, the concept or behind Clobba and the different modules is effectively, it's a single application which is going to manage and monitor multiple elements of your Microsoft Teams deployment. So whether that's user adoption, employee productivity, call costs, it might be that you want visibility, call queues and wallboards and management of those. It might be device management, voice recording. All of these different areas are addressed with the Clobba suite of software. Of course, today we're going to look specifically at the range manager. So Clobba RM really addresses those pain points that we looked at on the first slide. It's a powerful range manager, a number management solution, which will not only give you the visibility of the DID ranges, but also allow you to configure and manage the ranges, and indeed provision the numbers. With regards to the provisioning, we have Clobba RM has full support for direct routing, Operator Connect, and Microsoft calling plans as well. So what I've done, I've recorded these kind of snippet demonstrations as well here, looking at the key features. So if we look at the first demonstration here, this is really going to show the insights, so the visibility of the different ranges. You can see all of the applications there, or the different modules. I've selected range manager. You can see in this case is 23,000 DIDs across 158 ranges. So the allocation at 16% isn't particularly high, which is viewed on this landing page. If I want to get more details, I can go into the ranges page here, and you can see all 158 ranges are presented here. Maybe I want to start filtering on specific locations, so I can type that in the filtering. We can change the sorting, so I can see which of the ranges are least allocated in this case, or most allocated. I can then select one of the ranges. Here I'm selecting Bedford. Click through, drill down on that, so we can see the location of the range, We can see the percentage allocated, unallocated. You can see some of them are reserved. If we want to go to the unallocated, we simply change the sorting, and you can see there instantly all of the unallocated DIDs. It's possible to export this in Excel and PDF format as well. So if you do want to export it, it's certainly possible to do that. Because we integrate with Teams as well, we can effectively take the DID information from Teams, and what we think here is what we call the road DIDs. So these are DIDs that we've identified but are not allocated to ranges. So again, it gives you very quickly that information to make informed decisions. And then finally, the reporting, as I said earlier, we can look at all or allocated, unallocated DIDs very quickly. We can apply filters. So, for example, I looked at the Bedford range earlier. So if I want to just filter this on the Bedford range, run a report on the allocated DIDs, I can do that very simply. As you can see here, I'm just clicking on run. I filtered it on Bedford, and I've generated very quickly a report on the allocated DIDs in Bedford. And again, I can export that in Excel, PDF, or CSV format as well. The three options available with reports, as you saw there, I ran it on an ad hoc basis. I can save them as a template as well, or I can schedule the reports to run automatically with a user-defined frequency, and it will export that in, again, either Excel, CSV, or PDF format. So that's using Clobba RM to effectively show you the visibility of the ranges and the associated numbers. Of course, we can go in and then actually go to the next level where we can actually create ranges, and this is the management side. So I can manually create a new range if there's a new location coming on board, for example. I'll put in the description there. I'm going to call that London HQ. I would put in the from and to numbers range. You can see there, I would then allocate it as either a Teams calling plan or direct routing. We could put service provider information number in there. The whole number 4 will actually allow me, or for that particular range, it means they're at 30 days. If an employee leaves, you cannot reallocate the number for 30 days. Again, that's user definable. I'll put in the location there. And the organisation unit. So the organisation unit is effectively how the delegated access works with the security policies. So I can set that as an OU, and when users log in, if their profile restricts them to certain OUs, then when they utilise Clobba RM, they will be restricted to the OUs that they can actually use. That's manual way of creating the new range. We can import ranges. So if you are using spreadsheets at the moment, we can import all of the range information, as you can see here, directly from spreadsheets. And the other, if you like, bulk feature here is bulk provisioning, which I've mentioned earlier. So this is where, again, from a spreadsheet or CSV file, we can actually import, as you can see there, the calling plan, the dial plan, the voice routing policy, and this is effectively bulk provisioning of the DIDs. We can also verify the ranges. So what this would do is effectively we would import the CSV, your current CSV range details, and it's basically a versus comparison against the data that is held within the range manager. So a very high level with regard to that verification. It's really ensuring that maybe ranges aren't redundant, that you've purchased, and just verifying the integrity of the data that is being reported on the range manager. If we move on now to number assignment and provisioning, so we can, at a high level, we can just do allocate effectively a number. So I'm going to select out a range here. You can see there's quite a few available DIDs. I select one of those DIDs. I can reserve that. So in the case here, maybe a contractor starting, I want to reserve that so it can't be allocated to anyone else, and put in some notes associated with that. I can then further associate the number with effectively endpoints or the specific employee, as you can see there, and then simply modify that. So that's how you would just do the visibility. If we want to actually provision the number, I can go in. It's pretty much an identical process. Here you can see I complete that. This particular range is associated with direct routing. So in addition to the employee details, I would allocate a dial plan and a voice routing policy as well. The solution will integrate with your team's environment, so it will only be possible to allocate or provision a number if the licenses are actually available. And the final feature is actually the proactive side, so those alerts that I'd mentioned. Very simple process. Again, here I can create a new alert. It's going to be based on a DID range. So I create an entirely new alert here. I will call it, say I'm interested in range over 95% capacity. So I'm going to call it that. And effectively, I will set up email addresses. I'll enable that. You can see it's active throughout the day. And the threshold here, I can populate that as being 95%. And now, when any range is reaches that capacity point of 95%, I will get, or the system administrator will get an email notification. And of course, you can take appropriate action. What that means in reality is that you should never be in the situation where you've got a new starter, maybe in a location, and your DID capacity is effectively full. So it just gives you that as I mentioned, the proactive way of managing the actual ranges. So looking briefly at the architecture, I think that these diagrams or architectural diagrams are relatively self-explanatory. Direct routing on the left, Microsoft calling plans and operate connect on the right. Providing the organisation has acquired the relevant phone system licenses, E1, E3, or E3 with phone system license, or E5. Then, of course, the numbers can be allocated, and you can see how AD integrates with Clobba, and then Clobba integrates with Teams, and accordingly will provision and activate that number. So effectively, the employee or the user will get dial tone effectively enabled without any of those headaches that are associated with multiple spreadsheets and the use of the admin portal. It does use an Azure function, which is effectively an app running in the customer environment. We can deliver the solution either from our cloud, which is typically the process the majority of our customers are using, but we also have the option to deploy or deliver in the customer environment as well. I've probably not even gone 30 minutes on this, but I mean, it really is a simple concept. The solution has been purposely developed to be as simple to use as possible, which is why the demonstration and the overview that I've gone through today isn't going to run through to the full 45 minutes. So I think what I'll do now is move on to Q&A and basically open it up. I'm not sure if anyone's been putting any questions in the chat box and if they've been answered, but if not, now's a perfect opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have. know there's not many people on the call, so shouldn't be shy or anything. But I mean, if there's no questions now, certainly you can ping us
Hello.
afterwards. Oh, right. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is
Hi.
Patrick. I'm from Topso. I think that some people had some questions in the chat they put there. Would you look into that? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Just while people are typing, Mark, could you just come go over how it actually syncs with Azure, please? So I'm just thinking from a JML perspective where we've got a lever, we've got a sync to basically disable and remove that account within 7 days. How would that work within the kind of DDI manager within Clobba? So when there's so for example, if the profile's been deleted in Azure, can we then set something within Clobba that says, you know, if you don't use this number for a month, like you showed us, how does that Azure sync work?
Is that one I can defer to you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Eddie. I'm one of the developers here at Code. Basically, what we do is we define an import plugin that runs daily or however often you need it to run. And when the information for a certain employee no longer exists in the import source, it can be Azure AD, it can be a CSV file, it can be a ODBC source. It doesn't matter. The number will be removed from that employee within the range manager. So we sync daily with both with the teams, the admin center where the numbers can be allocated, and with the other import sources as the customer needs it.
And can we set that to remove the phone number from the actual user and then, like Mark showed us, you know, put something on that we don't reuse that number? Or can we set something that automatically releases it from the tenant?
You can do both of them. I mean, depending on your needs.
Thank you.
So basically the question is that it works both ways, right? So you either can manage it directly in Clobba, or you can also go to the Active Directory or to Teams, basically.
Yes, basically this the purpose of the range manager is to I don't know, avoid giving headaches to the IT admins in order to allow I don't know, department managers to assign numbers or stuff like that. That I mean, you no longer have to open a ticket. The IT admin has to handle it, assign the number, and so on and so forth. It can be done through the range manager.
Okay, one more question just came into my topic or my head was, do you have like specific roles? You basically you say we have a super admin or we have admin or super user. Is there any like recommendation from Clobba? Any like hierarchy wise?
From a point of view of the role needed for the provision part, you need a Teams admin to do this. I mean, this will be, as explained by Mark, the credentials for this user will be in your Azure environment, not so Clobba won't have access to them. Basically, from a technical point of view, it's an Azure function app behind it that runs PowerShell within your Azure tenant.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, just following on from that, Patrick. I mean, typically the way it is deployed, you would have a super user, which is typically anyway going to be the Teams administrator to have visibility and the ability to configure across all ranges. You would then typically break it down to localized users, and you restrict their policy, their access rights, so they can only view and configure at that localized level as well. And it supports single sign-on. So once that policy has been assigned to a user, it's a very simple access onto the actual solution itself.
Yeah, so it's the same as for any other companies, the policy for admins or whatever you set up in policy. It's more or less is it like a standard, basically. I just want to make sure that if there are any other new roles you consider or not, but I think I got it. Thank you.
I'll just work through some of these in the chat box there. Doing an SQL database for the range manager. Eddie, do you want to just confirm that? Everyone, you might have realised I'm not the most technical in the world.
I've already answered this question. It's
Okay.
a bit lower.
Okay, all right, good stuff. SBC session border controller, thank you, Eddie. Azure authorization, yeah, I mean we've effectively covered that as well. A very interesting question, Ian. With regards to that, I mean, with regards to provisioning, it will only provision teams, but because it's effectively AD based, it can do the if you like the level up from that. So we've got all of the visibility, the ads, moves, changes. Because it syncs with AD, it's kind of platform independent from that side of things. With regards to the next level of provisioning, currently we've only got support for Microsoft Teams.
And regarding Simon's question, we don't support that yet, but it's on our to-do list.
Just a last one for me, just for clarity. You're not actually, this doesn't automatically procure numbers from Microsoft or the
No, we
or
don't.
anything like that. It's just
we don't buy. We
to say that you're looking for like.
We don't make any financial operation on your behalf. So rest assured on this point.
I'm just checking whether it didn't actually go in when your ranges reach a certain amount. It didn't go and order extra numbers or anything like that. It's just an alert to say how much of it is that. Right.
Yeah, exactly, and that allows you to take the appropriate course of action.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Okay. Looks like Patrick's typing. Any other questions on that? Just
So you mentioned the month 3 trial there, Mark. What's the commercials moving forward after that, please?
so yeah, I mean it's delivered as software as a service. It's an annual subscription, which is effectively based on the number of DIDs that we're managing, and the fact if you want to take the provisioning piece as well. So I don't want to go into too much commercial detail, but Ali, if you ping us afterwards, then we can certainly very easily get you an indicative or budgetary quote over.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks.
Mark, another question. I'm quite interested how this works in a practical way. Do you have like any guidelines we can look afterwards, like any like examples how you do this little task provisioning or removing or anything like that? That could be very helpful to get an insight.
Yeah, unfortunately not, Patrick. Not specifically kind of those kind of video testimonials at the moment. What we certainly can do is set up maybe a session where we can go over any specific requirements and really do I suppose a more tailored demonstration to you.
Okay, we have also another contact with within Clobba with you guys. It's Cosmin. I think probably you know him.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Probably I go to him a bit and ask because he's our direct contact, I believe.
Okay, perfect. But of course, feel free to reach out to us as well.
Yeah, of course.
Great stuff. Okay. Well, I think unless there are any, Ian. Oh, thank you as well, Ian. good to hear from you. Okay, guys. Well, hopefully it was a useful session. As I said, feel free to reach out. We can do tailored specific demos or overviews, or you can very easily spin you up on the 30-day trial as well. I'm going to say enjoy the rest of your day.